Sit up with her, you fine.
Sure, okay.
Not a bad idea to go to the restroom first.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay. They say welcome back.
My hands are all wet.
That's all right. Have a seat, won't you? I think we got you some fresh juice there. Thank you. Did you get some lunch?
Yeah, tuna sandwich and clam chowder.
And clam chowder? Okay. Well, this is our second session. I'll just say for the benefit of the tape that this is Wednesday afternoon. And you're aware that we're being videotaped and all the things. You're welcome to take this with you or keep it, by the way.
Okay.
Any questions about this morning or anything you'd like to add from this morning?
Nope.
Okay. Okay. We left off, I was recalling, and so were you, that you had done some other things with children. You'd gone to an orphanage in Tijuana. That was interesting to me. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, it's part of the Corazon de Vida Foundation.
Corazon de
Vida?
Corazon de
Heart
Vida.
of Life.
Okay.
We would take day-long bus trips down to Tijuana orphanages and just hang out with the kids.
We is who?
As in everybody on the bus trip, I guess. So who volunteered?
Was it a church group or school group or?
Not just any group who wanted to get involved in the orphanage community in Mexico.
How did you find out about it? How'd you get hooked up with it?
It was advertised through the honors program at UC Riverside.
Okay. This is when you were in high school?
College.
In college, okay. Okay. Well, that's kind of neat. And what caused you to do that? What prompted you to sign up for that?
I thought it would be a good experience.
In what way?
And learning about children and just how they grew up and everything.
I'm curious, what did you want to learn or learn more about children?
Yeah, I just wanted to learn more about children in general.
Tell me about the children at Corazon de Vida.
Well, they're all orphans, and they seem like just normal kids, and they like to play, and they have their own school at the orphanage too.
Go ahead.
So some of the activities I did was play soccer with them, and play cards.
How often would you do this?
Like once every 3 months.
Once every 3 months?
Yeah.
Okay. Were there other groups that went down at other times, or did the kids get visited once every 3 months?
There were other groups that also visited them.
And how long would you stay?
Just for the day, and then we head back. We usually make them lunch too.
Tell me more about that. How far did you travel?
Well, it's not that far. It's like 2-3 hour drive.
There's more to it than that. You gotta show me that picture that in your memory.
Well, once we brought a bunch of toys down for them for Christmas, it was like we could donate money to buy toys for them and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And they like the toys. Okay.
So what did you do with that? Once again, there's a video playing in your mind somewhere, and I'd love it if you point things out in there and say, well, this is where I bought the toys, or this is what I bought. Can you give that a try?
Well, I just donated money. I didn't buy the toys for them. But we could have bought the toys for them.
Did you wrap the toys?
Nope.
So, you're on the bus, you got toys in your lap or under the bus.
Yeah, under the bus.
What happens then?
Then we do the border crossing, which is like, it takes like 30 minutes. Because they got to check out all the toys and stuff. Then we drive to the orphanage, and there's a couple different orphanages that we would go to.
And the bus stops, and
then we just hang out with the children. You know, we made them like a hot dog and Cheetos lunch, something very healthy.
can you picture any particular child that came up to you or that you hung out with?
No, not off the top of my head.
Was there a particular child or more than one that kind of remembered you and you liked to work with?
No, I don't think so. I think it was just in general, like packs of kids.
Pax, how many do you think?
It was probably 30 to 50 people at the orphanage.
So you've got the presents. What happens then?
Well, then we unload the presents, and yeah, and then they get to play with them.
What did they do when they saw the present?
They were very cheerful. They jumped up and down.
Did you have any particular feelings when you took them the presents and they were cheerful?
Yeah, I thought that was a nice thing to do.
I agree. Any other feelings inside you when you see the kids opening the presents and enjoying them?
No, not really.
Okay. Then you get on the bus and you go back
Yep.
to Riverside? Any trouble crossing the border this direction?
Then we have to get off the bus and walk across the border. Then the bus comes and picks us up. It's kind of a different procedure.
So you get back to Riverside, then what do you do?
Then I do school stuff.
Pretty full day.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other times in your life that you worked at the camp and you worked with the orphanage, I know you got paid at the camp, but it was a nice thing to do. Any other times you can think of that you volunteered some time or did something nice for other folks?
I did some gardening for the church that my mom usually goes to.
So, what did you say? Some
Gardening,
gardening?
like
Okay.
pulling up weeds and stuff.
When was that?
I was in high school.
Tell me about that.
Well, there's not much more to tell. That's,
Okay. Was it a regular gig or something you did once?
no, it was just once in a blue moon.
Okay. So it was your mom's church?
Yeah.
Okay. Did the family go to church together?
We used to, but I stopped going.
Okay. Tell me about when the family did go to church.
Well, we'd always buy donuts or go to Taco Bell before, like after church. It's the main thing I remember about church and its food.
What sort of church was it?
I think the first church we went to was Presbyterian. Then we went to like, Lutheran and different kinds of Protestant churches.
Okay. This is roughly how old?
Since the beginning of church, probably like second grade
Until?
until probably ninth grade.
Was the church a pretty big part of your family, or not very big, or the family faith?
It's big to my mom. She really likes it. She used to usher and do the other like church activities.
Okay. How about you?
No, I was never really a believer, I guess.
Okay. Did you go to Sunday school when you were little?
Yep.
And what do you remember about Sunday school?
They had a bunch of couches in their kind of room. So it was a kind of a relaxed atmosphere.
Kind of
A relaxed atmosphere.
okay. And what did they do with you guys in Sunday school?
Just read passages from the Bible.
Mm-hmm. Was that a pleasant experience or a meaningful experience? What adjectives would you use to describe that experience?
Indifferent.
Okay. In the course of time, did you start going to the grown-up church?
Yeah.
Tell me about your experience, what it was like to be in the adult church, the sanctuary, the sermon, that kind of thing.
Well, they would sing songs and do hymns and stuff. Usually the pastor would read passages from the Bible or something.
I'm curious, do you remember any particular passages or sermons or things that the pastor said, or any particular songs?
Glory, glory, hallelujah, or something.
Okay.
That's what it was.
Okay. Would the family sit together, or
Yeah.
everybody, you and Chris, mom and dad?
Yep.
How hard was it to get you to go to church?
They had to like bribe me with Taco Bell.
With Taco Bell?
Yeah.
Okay. Was that an every Sunday sort of thing, or some Sundays?
Pretty much every Sunday.
Okay. You mentioned several different Protestant denominations. As far as you know, was the family a member of any particular denomination?
I think they're Lutheran now.
Okay. Including or excluding church, at that time, and let's say as long as you were through high school living at home, how important was faith in your life, religious faith?
I'd say insignificant.
Okay. Important to your mom.
Yeah.
Did she bring the faith into the home, or did she leave it at the church?
I'd say she left it at the church.
How about Dad? How did he feel about
He's kind of like me.
I'm sorry?
He's kind of like me. So.
Okay.
But he would go because of my mom.
You went away to college, you came back and lived at home for a year. Was there any church in the year that you lived at home?
No, none whatsoever.
Was she still going to church or no?
Yeah, she would.
But you didn't.
Right.
Did Dad still go with her?
I think so, yeah.
I was going to ask, and I forgot to ask earlier, you mentioned you have the one sister.
Yep.
Did you ever have any other sibling? One who perhaps passed away or a foster sibling?
No.
At any time?
No.
As far as you know, was your mother ever pregnant at any other time or lose a baby?
No, she didn't.
Okay. Thinking back when you were a kid, doesn't matter what age right now, but thinking back when you were a kid, how did your parents get along?
Very well.
What did you see as the kid? Mom and Dad are over here doing something or in the same room. What did you see between them?
Them talking to each other. Just kind of, you could see love between them.
Okay. Could see love between them. And what was it that told you that you saw love between them?
Just that they cared about each other. It kind of like shone through them.
How did they show that?
Just in their demeanor towards each other.
And what kind of demeanor would that be?
Close.
Close?
Yeah, close.
You mean standing close or acting close or what?
Just a feeling of closeness.
Did that feeling come to you as well, or just between them?
Yeah, it came to me too.
Is there any particular time or any time when that closeness feeling between them was lost, even temporarily?
Not that I could ever see.
Okay. Did there ever come a time when the family closeness, including you, was lost?
Sometimes.
Like what?
Like when I came back after college for that year transition, and I didn't have a job yet. Then it was kind of like get out there and get a job.
Is that the way they put it?
That's the way I put it.
That's the way you felt it?
Yeah.
Again, I don't want to put words in your mouth.
That's the way.
Okay. Tell me more about what that was like.
It was just like a small conflict because my mom felt I wasn't doing anything, so I should get out there and go to work.
You think your dad felt the same way?
He probably did, but he didn't voice it.
Was that fair on their part? Were they right, or were they being overly pushy, or something else?
I think it was fair for them to do that.
And you did go out and get a job.
Yep.
What'd you do with the money?
I saved it.
Did you pay them any rent?
No, luckily they didn't make me pay rent.
So you saved it, I assume, for school and whatever would come along, or
Right.
for something in particular?
No, just in general to save it.
Okay. In the present, is faith a very important part of your life now?
No, it's like it was before.
Okay. Has there been a time since middle school, I guess, when religious kind of faith was an important part of your life?
No, I kind of viewed it as something just to be done for the sake of doing it.
What to be done for the sake of it?
Just going to church.
Since, I guess since high school, have you gone to church?
No, not really.
You say not really. Have you been to a church service since you left home?
Nope.
Okay. Of course, there's organized religion and organized faith, and then there's personal spirituality. Do you have a personal faith or personal spirituality?
Yeah, I kind of believe God is everything.
Okay.
So he doesn't really need to be worshipped or prayed to, but he's just kind of everything in total.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Well, he's kind of in our actions and in our thoughts, and he's the collective sum of everything.
Okay. Collective sum of everything.
So, like anything you can think of, that is a part of God.
Okay. That view and that feeling has a certain familiarity to it. I'm not sure where it comes from.
I'm not sure either.
What does that kind of God or that kind of presence of a supreme being, what does that further mean to you or ask of you? Or I'm not sure what I'm asking, but maybe you can answer it anyway.
I'm not sure either.
Okay. Does a God of that sort have expectations of man, of you and I and other people, for example?
No, I would say not.
Okay. So what does, and I understand that we're talking in the abstract here, what does that God do, or besides be present, is there anything else that God does? Or
Well, he kind of does everything and anything.
tell me what you're thinking of right now. That's interesting.
He's just kind of like the universe in its like smallest parts to its largest parts, and kind of like any action.
So he acts in many ways.
Right.
Excuse me. Does he pay attention to what happens on Earth or in space or the rest of the universe?
Well, that would kind of mean he's paying attention to himself, because he is everything.
Okay. So if I were to ask, does he care what you and I do? What would your answer be to that?
I would say yes and no.
You're playing both sides of the street.
Well, if you talk about everything, then it's going to be negative and positive. And
Can you give me some examples? What might he care about?
just how the universe is working.
How the universe is working? I'm not sure I understand.
It's hard to say like what he would care about, because that's a single thing. It's a single emotion, and he would be caring and not caring at the same way.
Do you suppose he would care about the shootings, for example?
I suppose so.
In what way might he care about the shooting?
Just that it's changing something.
Go ahead.
It's changing life to death.
And if we somehow attribute human cares and thoughts and feelings to God, what might he feel about that?
he might care that people were dying.
Okay. One of the things that folks have described about you when you were growing up, you used the word shy several times, was that you were a little bit isolated, a little bit of a loner. Is that an accurate description of you?
Yeah.
Can you describe for me where on the scale of lots of loner and not so much loner, where you would be and what that means? I'm not asking that very well, I know.
Like an 8 out of 10, I would be on the loner scale.
Okay. With 10 being
10 being
lonerist.
the most.
Okay. You described a lot of activities with other people that you did and that you enjoyed, apparently. How does that mesh with the impression now that you're giving that you're a loner?
Well, it's just that I prefer to be alone. So it's almost impossible not to do things with other people. Just because it's a social society.
Okay. Were there ever times when you isolated yourself, took yourself out of the equation or out of the crowd or out of the group?
Yeah, lots of time.
Can you give me some examples of that?
Well, one was when Gargi wanted to go to a bar, and I said I didn't want to go, and she got all angry. So I'm not much of a bar guy.
And what did you do?
I stayed home.
She stayed home with you?
Nope, she went.
So you stayed. I'm curious. What did you do when you stayed home?
Watch TV.
Okay. Other examples of purposely moving yourself into a more isolated versus less isolated situation?
I can't think of any off the top of my head.
When you got the apartment in college, not in grad school, did you have an apartment in college also?
Yes.
That was an apartment by yourself or with a roommate?
It was by myself because I prefer that way.
Because?
I prefer that way.
Would it be fair to just say that that was one of the things you moved from dormitory to on-campus housing, did you say?
On campus to then my own apartment.
And then to your own apartment.
Yep.
Tell me about the difference in feeling between being in your own apartment and being in a dormitory with a couple of hundred people.
There's a lot more freedom in having your own apartment to do what you want to do.
To do what you want to do?
Yeah.
Meaning what?
I guess watch TV or play video games or whatever.
Let me take a little side trip here. When you do the video games, and it may vary, are you playing online games with other players online, or are you playing the computer?
Some video games it's only the computer, and others it's online.
Which did you prefer and do the most, if either?
The online ones.
Okay. So there were other people at the end of the web, various characters.
Yeah, I wasn't quite as anxious when it's kind of over the digital web.
You weren't quite as anxious. That was your phrase.
Yeah, when I'm around people, I'm kind of anxious.
Tell me about that.
Well, I don't know. It's just they expect you to say something, and I usually like to listen more.
Okay. When you say anxious, what do you mean anxious?
Like fidgety, fearful.
Fidgety, fearful, what else?
Not wanting to be there.
You sometimes need to escape from situations?
Yeah, kind of escape.
You sometimes escape from those situations actually, or do you just need to escape from them?
I feel the need to escape.
Feel the need. And what happens if you can't escape? What happens to that feeling then?
And I kind of freeze.
What's that like?
I don't know how to explain that.
What are you seeing in your mind?
Just uncommunicative.
Are you seeing a picture of yourself in your mind?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay. You and I are looking, I'm looking over your shoulder looking at this picture. Point to the picture and describe the picture for me, would you?
I'm standing there and not saying anything, and people are talking around me, and I don't know what to say.
And that's making you uncomfortable?
Yeah.
Okay. Are the other people noticing that, or are you hiding it efficiently from them?
It depends on how long I'm around them, whether they'll notice it or not.
What happens when they notice it?
Then I feel embarrassed.
What do they do?
Stare.
Anything else that they do?
Not really.
They ever laugh at you?
No, I don't think so.
Or point at you or say, get out of here, you're too shy? Or...
No.
What, an odd question perhaps, what do you think they're thinking when you're kind of frozen like that?
Why isn't he talking?
Okay. What else are they thinking about you?
Maybe there's something weird about him.
But they don't say that, is that correct? Or do they sometimes say that?
They won't say it to me, at least.
You pretty sure that sometimes they were thinking that?
Yep.
And what makes you sure that they were likely to be thinking that?
Just because I've walked in on them and heard them, that kind of thing.
Heard them what?
Heard them talking about me.
Really? What might you walk in and hear them saying?
What was he doing or whatever.
Can you think of an instance in which that happened? Are you thinking of a particular instance in which that really happened?
Yeah.
What instance is that?
It's when it was at the camp Max Strauss, and it was with the other counselors. When a guy and a gal were playing chess, and I was watching, and then they left, and then I left, and then heard them say it.
How'd you feel when you heard them say that?
I ignored it.
How'd you feel?
Not so great.
What do you mean not so great? How'd you feel?
Like there was something wrong with me.
I'd like to take your pulse right now. May I take your pulse?
Okay.
I may do that from time to time. Thank you. Thank you. something weird about them.
Yep.
Like they think there's something weird, or like there's something truly weird about you.
They think there's something.
Like they think there's something. Did you ever think there was anything weird about yourself?
Yes.
And let me limit it right now to before college, okay?
Okay.
So before college,
I thought I wasn't as social as other people.
okay. Before college is before the Camp Max Strauss.
Right.
So had there been situations even then when you thought other people thought you were weird?
I don't remember if there was a long time ago.
Okay. I want to talk a little later about whether and when you felt like you were weird. And we'll come back to that. Was the situation of feeling shy and perhaps isolated, were those generally related to particular situations, or would it be anytime there were other people around? Or
Anytime there were other people around I didn't know, or was it close friends with?
okay. So family and close friends.
I'm kind of exempt.
How comfortable were you with family and close friends?
Very comfortable.
Very?
Yeah.
Okay. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but you didn't feel weirdly shy or weirdly weird around family and close friends?
Right.
Okay. You think family and close friends thought you were weird?
No.
Okay. So why would somebody, just because they didn't know you, think you were weird if with family and close friends you didn't think you were weird and they didn't think you were weird?
Because I'm different around different people.
Because you acted different? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. How quickly, or what does it take to get you from, okay, I know this person, I don't feel weird and I'm not acting weird, to stranger? What has to happen to make that change, to get you
I was
comfortable?
just spending a long time with them. I don't know exactly how long though.
Okay. For example, you and I have been talking for 3 or 4 hours over a period of a day.
Yeah.
Is it approaching that in any way, or is it pretty uncomfortable?
It was still uncomfortable.
Still uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. The people who are around you at the jail, they're not interacting very much with you, I understand that. Is it uncomfortable with them, or is it comfortable with them?
Well, I'm not with them, so it's kind of neither.
You're not with them.
So it's neither.
In what sense are you not with them?
Well, I'm not communicating with them. I'm not.
Got it. Okay. Okay. How about your defense attorneys? Where do they stand on that spectrum?
I'd say I was close to them.
Okay. So things are pretty comfortable.
Yeah, pretty much.
And your impression would be that they don't particularly see you as weird because you've become comfortable with them and your behavior is pretty normal.
Right.
So, and again, I'm doing all the talking I shouldn't be. Is that pretty much the way you see it?
Yeah, I've been with them for a while. So.
Okay. Some of the staff here told me that you were familiar with them from last time you were here,
Right.
and they recognized you. How comfortable are you with the staff that you remember from last time?
Not very comfortable.
Can you put your finger on anything that makes it uncomfortable for you? That's a very broad, vague question, I guess.
Just being there and not having something to do kind of makes it uncomfortable.
Not having something to do.
Yeah, because if you have something to do, it kind of avoids having to do direct talking, confrontation.
Okay. So what would be the circumstance with being in a class with people you didn't know well?
That would be fine because they're focused on the lectures instead of socializing with all the people.
So far as you remember in such classes, would you, being comfortable, then perhaps interact with somebody near you, ask for a pencil or a pen, or
No, I pretty much never did that.
share a note or something like that?
No.
Okay. What if they asked you for a piece of paper or to take a look at your notes or something?
Then I'd help them out.
Would it make you uncomfortable?
No,
Or not?
because it's like something we have to do together instead of talking. And there's awkward silences.
And so it sounds like you're saying that having a purpose takes the edge off the anxiety.
Yeah.
Okay. You and I have a bit of a purpose. I'm asking you 100 questions. And
Yeah, you're the one doing the talking mostly.
Well, I'll try to correct that.
Oh.
I'll try to correct that. Do you think as we continue to talk for a few days that you'll do more of the talking?
It might get better. I don't know.
Interesting that you use the word better. I see it as a little different. I'm not sure I see it as good or bad, or better or worse. So why did you say better? Is it bad to be?
Yeah, that's kind of my view of it. It's bad to have social anxiety.
What's the worst thing you can think of happening in a social situation related to that anxiety or something that makes you uncomfortable? What's the worst that could happen?
It could start a fight, I guess.
What happens then?
Then you have to avoid the fight somehow.
What happens then?
Then it stops. Eventually it stops.
How does it stop?
And after the confrontation is over,
How does the confrontation come to an end?
poorly.
What does that mean? How does the confrontation come to an end?
Then I didn't give the right answer.
I don't understand. How, you say you were concerned that there'd be a confrontation or a fight,
Yeah.
and then you said the next step is that it's over. And I'm asking you to fill in the blank. How does it get from a fight to being over?
It just ends afterwards.
How does it end?
I guess just nobody says anything.
Nobody says it.
Yeah.
What's the worst? I'm going to stick with the worst case scenario business. What's the worst way it could end?
With someone getting offended.
Okay. Like how?
Like if I didn't say the right thing or not.
So you're talking about the other person getting offended, not you.
Yeah.
So the worst thing that could happen is not that you would feel offended, but that the other person would feel offended.
Right.
What happens then?
And we go our separate ways.
Is that so bad?
It is if a person's offended.
How is that a bad thing? That the other person is offended?
It just is bad, I guess. I don't know if there's an explanation for it.
You're sort of saying it's axiomatically bad, and that I don't buy that. What's bad about it?
Just because I didn't say the right thing or not.
You already said that. We're in a little circle
Yeah,
here.
it's axiomatic.
Okay. Let's come back to the worst thing that could happen. Parting ways with the other person feeling bad is the worst thing that could happen?
I suppose there's worse.
What might be worse?
If somebody gets killed or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you picture a circumstance where that might happen between you and somebody else that you're talking to?
I can't see myself doing it.
Okay. How about you getting killed?
I also can't see that happening.
Okay. What I'm kind of trying to come to is within the anxiety, which you use the word fear as well, what the fear might be. If you take that idea of the fear far enough, what do we find? What do we see? What do we feel?
Well, fear is its own emotion.
Go ahead.
So it's it's not different from the other.
What happens when people get frightened? Well, physiologically, what happens?
There's a sympathetic response, like fight or flight. So people either confront it or they run away from it.
The thing you described you doing was freezing.
Yeah, so I guess that's not in those two categories.
Big pardon?
I guess that's not in those two categories.
That's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking too. So which do you think James wants to do in this hypothetical situation? Fight or flee?
Usually flee. Do escapist things.
What's that?
Do escapist things.
Okay. And from time to time you've done that. Withdrawn, gone back to your apartment, watched TV instead of going to the bar. Things like that.
Yeah.
Has it ever come to pass that you've done the fight part?
Not like physical fight, but like, I guess verbal defense or something.
Ever been in a physical fight?
When I was a kid, like little, like scruffs and stuff.
Very often?
No, it just once in a while.
Okay. Let me take a side trip, and I'm sorry, I look over that way. Occasionally somebody's waving at somebody. I think they're waving at me. And,
Okay.
if they really want us, they'll pound on the window, I guess. Let me take a side trip into the fight business. Roughly how many fights have you been in which you either landed a blow or someone landed a blow on you?
It's more wrestling, I would say. So there's no blows landed.
Okay, well, the contact is really what
Maybe
roughly
like 2 or 3 only.
2 or 3. Okay. What was the worst one? What happened?
I don't remember. It was when I was a kid.
So the oldest one, the one in which you were the oldest, would be about how old?
Maybe 10.
Maybe 10. And you really don't remember the circumstance?
No.
Okay. Did you ever get beaten up real bad?
Nope.
Okay. Did you ever run away from a fight? Frightened and run away?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Did you ever threaten someone who ran away from you?
No.
Okay. Now we come back to the verbal altercation you were talking about, okay?
Yep.
The flee or fight verbally or freeze.
I usually just don't say anything, so I try and ignore the verbal attackers.
I kind of want to say, how does that work for you? Because it's tough to do that. It's very hard to do that.
It works well. Let me see. There's a lot of verbal attackers in jail,
That's a good point.
so I just ignore them, and then eventually they stop.
Let's come up to the jail bed. Can you give an example of the verbal attackers in the jail?
Yeah, I'll just say stuff.
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Give me an example.
They say like baby killer and stuff.
Okay. Who's this coming from?
Other inmates.
Other inmates. Do you have any contact at all with other inmates?
No.
Ever?
Nope.
If you're going someplace, say through the tunnel to the court or something like that,
They like lock down the hallways.
they lock down the hallway and take you down the hallway. So you don't go over to the wall, or they don't go over to the wall while you pass. They're actually not in the hallway.
Yeah, they're outside of the hallway.
Then how do they know it's you to yell at you?
That's not usually where it happens. It usually happens at my cell with like the cleaning trustees coming by and yelling stuff.
Okay. So folks in the jail know that James Holmes is in MC1 or whatever the
Right.
cell is. And perhaps a trustee working, or perhaps somebody else who's temporarily in another MC cell may yell things.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it goes.
Okay. Has there ever been a circumstance where they've gotten to you physically?
No.
Or I'm sorry?
No.
No. Let me go. I thank you for that example. But let me go back earlier to your activity of freezing rather than fighting or fleeing. Freezing is a little different from ignoring, it seems to me. Does it sound different to you?
Yes.
What's the person who's freezing thinking, feeling, what's going through his mind?
They can't think or feel at that time because they're kind of frozen. So it's kind of a mental block.
A mental block of the whole mind, or just for that part of the mind that's involved in the
Coming up with a response or something.
Okay. Does that describe you pretty well in those circumstances?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. was the first time that you noticed that you did that or could do it? When was the first time you recall doing it?
I don't remember the first time.
Can you think of an example that maybe wasn't the first time but sticks out in your mind?
No, I don't know any examples.
Was there a time or a period in which you realized you were doing it more or more strongly, more obviously to yourself?
In graduate school.
Okay. What might that have had to do with? What might you have been doing?
Like discussing lab papers, lab articles.
Okay. In some sort of presentation?
In like discussion groups, kind of thing.
Tell me what that was like.
Well,
Picture that circumstance. Yeah.
A person would choose a figure, or they'd have a figure assigned to them from a paper, and they'd have to usually explain what it was. And that's tough for me because they kind of put you on the spot,
And when you say a figure,
like a graph or something.
okay. You'd be kind of on the spot. Would you generally know know about the topic, but be on the spot with regard to talking about it?
Yeah, I usually know what was going on, but then have trouble saying it or bringing it out.
Okay. If you were talking just with one other classmate, for example, lab partner, would the same thing happen, or would it?
No, it was usually the group.
It's in the group. Okay. How well did you know the folks in those groups? See them every week, or every day, or once a month?
It would depend on if it was on what class it was. If it was a neuroscience one, then I knew pretty much most of the people there.
And you would still freeze up?
Yeah, sometimes.
Every time, or just sometimes?
Sometimes.
How much? How many times out of? I'm kind of asking how often.
Maybe 50%.
And what happens when you freeze up? Take me through the process of the next 15 minutes. You start to freeze up, and
then they wait for an answer, and then I'm kind of lost.
then what happens?
Then I'll have to like reread it, or they'll just move on.
And then what happens?
Then the freezing stops.
When the freezing happens at its worst, do you say anything at all?
Not unless I'm spoken to.
So if someone speaks to you, you would respond?
Yeah, I try and give my best response available.
Was that response generally an appropriate response, or no?
Yeah, I'd say it was appropriate.
Okay. I read a little bit about you giving presentations.
Yep.
And maybe these are the discussion groups you're talking about, but it appears that you or someone similar is standing up with a PowerPoint presentation.
Right.
Is that what you're talking about, or is that different from what you're talking about?
That's different. That's like lab rotation speeches. I'm talking about we've got like an article in front of us. We have to talk about a graph or something. And they call on me and say, can you explain this graph?
If the group were asked to write an explanation of the graph, would that solve the problem?
if I wasn't put on the spot,
If everybody in the group were asked to,
then I would know what to do.
I'm sorry?
Then I would know what to do.
Okay. If you were asked to take the graph home and interpret it,
That's easy.
that'd be easy. So it's not a question of not knowing the stuff.
Right.
Gotcha. Tell me about the larger presentations with PowerPoints and things like that.
They were in front of the neuroscience department, so a bunch of professors and students.
And how did those go for you?
They went okay. I got feedback from the graduate training committee.
What was the feedback like?
It was usually critiques or criticisms.
Useful, hard to take, positive, negative?
Mostly negative, I would say.
Were you able to use that feedback to do it differently the next time, or no?
Not really, no.
Okay. The isolation business, and shyness is a little different from isolation, I guess. There was another example in the record that I looked at about when you moved back to San Diego from Salinas. Salinas or Salinas?
Salinas.
Salinas. There was a Steinbeck book written about Salinas, wasn't there?
Yeah, he used to live there.
Okay, that's what.
Of mice and men. He used to be eating grapes of wrath.
Did you read much Steinbeck or know much about that history? Obviously, you know
we
that.
read him in school, I think.
Okay, interesting. Did you like reading Steinbeck?
Yeah, he was fine.
Okay. What was your favorite Steinbeck book?
Mice and men.
Okay. Why do you suppose you were drawn to that particular one? Besides the fact
because
that
the characters were interesting.
Okay. Being short didn't have anything to do with it?
Being short?
It was a short book.
Oh, that probably did for the book report too.
Okay. Anybody in particular in that book that you might have identified with, or?
I think Lenny.
Okay. Really?
Yep.
That's an interesting one to identify with. And you were pre-middle school at that time. You were 12 or under, right?
Yes.
So tell me how you and Lenny might have been similar or felt similar.
I don't know how to answer that. How I felt compared to.
What are you picturing in your mind right now?
I don't know. I'm frozen.
You're frozen. Do you remember anything that, and I'm kind of putting you on the spot with regard to the book, you read it a long time ago. Do you remember any things that Lenny did?
Yeah, he crushed the mouse and pulled on the girl's dress, I think, when she was trying to get away or something.
What were some other characteristics of Lenny?
I think he was schizophrenic. He saw like rabbits or something.
And what was it about Lenny that you think applied in some way or other to you, even at age 12 or however old you were?
I just thought he was the most interesting character in the book.
Okay, interesting character. He was also a character that almost everyone misunderstood.
Oh, I don't remember that. Okay.
There was.
Okay.
He had a friend,
George.
George. Everybody else teased him. but with a friend he was comfortable with. You recall that about the book?
Yeah.
What do you think that relationship, what do you remember about that relationship between George and Lenny? How did George feel about Lenny?
George liked him because he could do a lot of hard work, like manual labor. And I guess they were just friends.
Think George cared about him?
Yeah. That's what made it hard for him to kill him in the end.
Tell me about that act of George killing Lenny, if you remember it from the book, and it was pretty striking.
That's all I remember about it.
Do you remember why George killed Lenny?
Yeah, Lenny accidentally killed another person. I don't remember who. But they were out to get him.
And why George? Why was George the one that killed him?
Because he was the closest one to him.
What do you make of that? What do you suppose Steinbeck was
What was he going for?
telling us about George, yeah? About that relationship?
I don't know.
I bet you wrote a book report on it. And
That was a long time ago, though. Okay. Yeah, I don't know why him versus the other people.
okay. Did you want to move back to San Diego when the family moved back? Or do you remember?
I wanted to stay in Salinas.
You wanted to stay in Salinas?
Yeah.
What do you remember about not particularly wanting to live in the city?
Just that all my friends were in Salinas, so I wouldn't have to kind of restart.
It's tough for kids to restart.
Yep.
How did you restart when you got back to San Diego?
I just met new friends.
How did you do that?
I don't remember how it happened.
Any guesses, speculation about how the young James would have met and made new friends?
Maybe just proximity, being around them.
But you didn't have to play with them.
Right.
How'd you end up playing with them?
See, I don't know.
How might you have ended up playing? Speculation, I guess.
Just talking to them.
Do you recall whether there was a period in which you didn't want to play with them? You wanted to keep to yourself when you moved back?
No, I wanted to make new friends.
Okay. There's some place in the record that talks about you sitting in the closet reading.
I don't know what that's about.
Does that ring a bell?
No.
Doesn't? Okay. And I'm not sure either.
Does it say when or what?
It was when you moved back to San Diego. When did the family move to San Diego in the first place? How old were you then?
When I was first at San Diego,
Yeah.
I was born in San Diego.
You were born in San Diego, okay.
Yeah.
So you're there for a long time, and you only came back one time.
Yep.
Somewhere in the record, there's something about you spending time sitting in the closet reading. And I'm not remembering the context, and I'm wondering if you remember.
I don't remember anything.
Sitting in the closet reading.
No.
Kids do some interesting things.
Yeah.
What kinds of things did you like to read back then, when you're 12, 13 years old?
Oh, my favorite was Goosebumps.
Goosebumps?
Yeah.
Okay. I have not read, that's a series, isn't
Oh,
it?
I think there's like hundreds of them.
Kids series?
Yeah.
I've not read it. What's the premise of Goosebumps?
It's like a scary story. Just a scary story.
Are they real heavy-duty scary stories, or are they scary stories for little kids?
I think they're for little kids.
Okay, so go ahead. You like those? What was in Goosebumps books that you remember?
Just a bunch of monsters and stuff.
And what happened in the books about the monsters, and perhaps children were in the books too? Right? Children and monsters?
I don't remember if there were. I just remember it was like scary.
And it was a scary stuff for you to read?
Yep.
Okay. So what does a kid like James do when he's reading Goosebumps? How do you deal with being scared?
Well, it always ends, so there's nothing to be afraid of once it ends.
Does it end with the scariness going away, or is it still scary at the end and you just put the book down?
It's usually still scary, but then after a while, its scariness kind of fades away. And as you get older, too, it's not scary.
You had your own room all this time, right?
Yep.
Were you ever kind of scared in your room by yourself?
I used to think there was something called nail ghosts.
Called what?
Nail ghosts.
Nail goat.
Nail ghosts.
Nail ghosts.
So I had my bed up against the wall, and ghosts would hammer nails through the wall and kind of poke you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Where do you suppose the nail ghosts came from?
My imagination.
Were they in a book or anything, or
No, I
your
never
imagination?
heard of them anywhere else.
Well, then you got to tell me all about them, because psychiatrists really want to hear about those childhood monsters. So tell me about nail ghosts and what they looked like, what they did.
They just make it so you can't sleep with your against the wall. You have to kind of be sleeping towards the other side of your bed. Otherwise, the nails will come through the wall and get you.
How did you deal with that? You slept, for one thing, you slept away from the wall, I see,
Yeah.
right? Okay. How else did you deal with it?
Well, I eventually got over it.
Okay. Did you ever decide, hey, I can't sleep here, and go try to sleep with mom or dad, or sleep on the couch? Or...
Maybe if it was like a nightmare or something, then I would do that.
Okay. Did you tell mom or dad about the nail ghosts?
I don't know. I don't remember.
And one of the things I was wondering was, what was their reaction to your fear of the nail ghosts? Do you remember?
No, I don't remember. I don't know if I told them.
Did mom or dad know that you were afraid of anything? Heights, or jumping off the high diving board, or nail ghosts, or anything else?
Yeah, I was afraid of the dark. So they got me one of those little lantern light things.
Okay. And how did they treat, speaking of each one actually, how did mom treat you? How did dad treat you about knowing that their son was afraid of the dark?
Well, they let me sleep in their bed, or they'd say there's no monsters. Yep.
Did that help?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Does the frozen feeling that you've described very articulately, does that frozen feeling bear any resemblance to the feeling of being afraid in the dark or the nail monsters?
No, I don't think so.
The visceral feeling is not similar as far as you can recall?
No, I just go further under the covers so it wouldn't like freeze or anything.
Okay. Here's an odd question. In the freezing as a grown-up, would you ever have fantasies or thoughts or pictures in your mind of some of the monsters from childhood or any kind of monster? If you're freezing, say, in a social situation.
I would have like violent images.
Violent image.
Yeah.
Tell me about them.
Things like saws going against the other people.
Like what?
What do you mean?
You said violent images and thoughts going against the other people. And I don't know what you mean
like
by
like a saw, like sawing them, or like them getting their heads cut off or something.
Okay. Sawing them or getting their heads cut off.
Yeah.
Tell me more about those images in your mind when you're frozen.
They just pop up randomly.
Would they pop up randomly, say, when you're older in the grad school, or is it much younger?
Since like high school on.
Let's take that fantasy to some end, some maybe ridiculous end. A saw pops up. What happens then in the fantasy?
It just like chops off a limb.
What kind of saw? Who's holding the saw? What happens next?
It's just kind of like a floating saw. And then once it happens, then it's like, then there's no more, it's done.
It's done. Is the saw dangerous to you or dangerous to the other person?
The other person.
So the saw's your friend, your ally. Does that make sense?
I wouldn't put it like that, no.
You wouldn't put it like that. Okay, thank you for correcting that. Because my thoughts don't have to be your thoughts. Okay. The saw just kind of appears and something happens to the other person.
Yeah.
And then it ends, and what happens next?
Then I'm either still frozen or have come up with a response or something.
Why do you suppose you quickly corrected me when I said the saw was your ally? You're having violent thoughts against somebody that's making you uncomfortable.
Right.
And something's helping you, or something's cutting off his limb or his head or his arm. Why do you suppose you were quick to say, hey, not my ally? It's just a random saw, or something like that.
Because the saw's doing it on its own.
I'm sorry?
It's doing it on its own.
Saw's doing its own. Okay. Think the saw's any part of you, mentally speaking? Getting very Freudian about it?
No, I don't know.
Did you ever ponder that before? Gee, I wonder where the saw came from. You ever think about it or ponder it?
No.
Okay. What are some of the other fantasies or images that come up when you freeze?
Like a nuclear winter.
What do you mean?
Like setting off a bunch of atomic bombs.
This seems to come up in a matter of seconds when you're kind of at an impasse on the spot, neither fleeing nor wanting to fight. Does that make sense?
Right.
Okay. What do you make of that? What do you make of that nuclear winter picture coming into your mind?
It's unrealistic. It's going to happen already.
What do you make of it coming into your mind?
I don't know why it's popping up.
Can you speculate on it?
It could be arising because I'm frustrated, I guess.
You mentioned the internship with the Salk Institute. I remember in the record somewhere you applied for a job as a lab tech. Am I right about that, or am I misunderstanding that?
It's separate from the internship.
That was a separate thing. What was that circumstance?
What was what circumstance?
Yeah,
The lab tech?
the lab tech. Yeah.
I don't remember. I think I applied for a bunch of lab tech positions.
When you were between college and grad school, was that in that year when you were living at home?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I know there was something else that I was curious about. There was something in an email that mentioned Phi Beta Kappa. Are you Phi
Yeah,
Beta Kappa?
I was a member of Phi Beta Kappa.
Perfect. And you no doubt still are. It's a permanent thing.
Okay.
Okay. So you've got your key and everything.
Yep.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
We talked a little about religion. The other thing psychiatrists always ask about is sex. You were fairly old for your first serious girlfriend. That was Gargi.
Yeah.
Right. You dated, but were more on friendly dates with girls before that, it sounds like.
Correct.
Okay. Was Gargi your first sexual experience?
Yes.
Okay. Other than masturbating, I suppose.
Right.
Okay. How was that for you? Was it successful, unsuccessful with Gargi? I know that's a vague question. It's that way on purpose. I'd like for you to kind of tell me about that.
I think it was a successful relationship.
Okay. Good for both of you?
Yep.
Okay. How frequent was it?
Maybe like 3 or 4 times a week.
Okay. Did the sexual part come fairly quickly after you guys started to date, or was it delayed a ways?
I think 2 months.
Okay, about 2 months. Y'all were together for not too many months, as I
I
recall.
think like 6 months.
About 6 months. Okay. I take it she never became pregnant.
No.
That's fair to say.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else in your life that you've ever had intercourse with?
Nope.
We get a little more personal. Everybody masturbates. Can you tell me something about the fantasies or the things that turn you on to masturbate?
Just good looking. Yeah. Big boobs. Yep.
Anything else?
That's about it.
That's about it. That sounds like pretty standard fare.
Yep.
And go on the web, have a little porn laying around.
Just on the web.
Okay. There are other places to see boobs and stuff. For example, peeking in windows and things like that. Did you ever do any window peeking? Or?
No, never.
Okay. We might come back to that. I don't know. Psychiatrists usually do.
Okay.
At times, according to the record, different people have viewed you in lots of different ways. First time I've ever talked with you, so I'm asking a lot about how you view yourself. But may I read you 10 or 15 things that I've seen in the record as ways that people see you, and kind of see what your
Sure.
reaction to those is?
Okay.
One of the phrases is that, and this is I think both prior to the shootings and since the shootings, trying to keep it together. What does that bring to mind for you? Trying to keep it together, is that accurate, not accurate?
Well, I don't know what it is.
Okay. What comes to mind?
Just trying to keep my life in order, I guess.
Okay. Anything after that?
No.
My impression, and again, it's my thought, not necessarily yours, is trying to keep your mind together. Trying to kind of keep from losing it in some way.
Okay.
Does that resonate at all with?
That sounds accurate.
Okay. So tell me how it sounds accurate, because this is what other people are saying. I'd much rather hear what your view is of it.
Well, I became more disorganized, and I guess my mind was kind of falling apart.
Tell me more.
I don't know what else there is to say.
Sounds like there's a lot more to say. You're becoming more disorganized, and you felt like your mind was falling apart. Those were your words just now.
All right.
Can you tell me about when that was? It may have been lots of different times, but about when?
Like after Christmas, when I came back to graduate school.
So that would be early 2012?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you expand on that a little bit? What was it like? What was going on inside you?
Well, I was sick. I think I was sick from mono. And I was fatigued all the time.
I do remember you had mono then, and they diagnosed you in California, right?
Yeah.
How long did that mono episode last?
Like 2 months, I think.
Did you see a doctor in Colorado about it?
I did, but he said I had postnasal drip.
Once it was diagnosed at Kaiser, I guess, in California, and you came back, did you see doctors who now knew that you had mono?
No, I didn't.
You didn't?
No, I didn't go to a doctor once I came back.
Interesting, okay. So what was the course of that mono? What happened then?
I was just tired most of the time.
Did you stay home from class?
No, I still tried to keep busy working and stuff.
How successful were you at studying?
Not very successful.